Davies, who was the contact who had to get won over by Gary to let us come in here and take over the act for these 2 hours. So thank you to those people. I'm just going to introduce our panel at this particular moment, and then we will, I'll just, sorry, I'm a little scattered today, it's been a busy day. To my immediate left is Michael Sather, the MVP MLA for Bennett. Chandra Herbert, he is the MPPIA for West End Vancouver, and also is the critic for the our ministry, which always confuses me. Is it community sport and cultural development, or is it sport community cultural development? But he is with us today as well. Mielnicki, who is a location manager in the industry, who's worked in probably every municipality in the Lower Mainland, as well as the island and the interior, kind of all over. What is your official title with question one? Well, they got that. VP of Marketing at Question One Rentals, the American Live Cast. Klausen, the business agent for IATSE 891. Marsden, the secretary treasurer for Teamsters 155. Mielnicki, the senior steward from, chief steward from ACFC West. Mr. Mayor Ernie Dayken from the city of Maple Ridge. Mr. Marc, Dalton, who is the Liberal MLA for Maple Ridge Mission. And last but not least, Mitch, Davies, who is the president of IATSE 890. Just before we move on, I just want to do a little. We lost a member of our community, our film community, who was kind of loved and hated in the last couple of years. Loved and hated over well, I've been in the industry, but a senior Teamster member named Jack Hobbit passed away recently. He was only 70 years old. He was part of the industry growing up in this province. And again, whether you love him or whether you hate him, and we've all got our opinions on both sides, he fought with every ounce of strength that he had until the bitter end. So I just wanted to make acknowledgement that we lost him in the past couple of weeks. And yeah, there we go. Very quickly, in the last 8 weeks since January 12th, which was the day that all the Facebook posts started to get deleted off the Critic Facebook page, I'm going to update you as to what has kind of happened within the SaveBCFilm campaign. We've organized and hosted a town hall meeting at North Shore Studios for over 4,000 people. We've set up and moderated a Facebook page that has almost 7,000 likes and reaches just over 1 million people now as friends of fans. Set up and moderated a Twitter account that has over 1,500 followers. Been in the news, this is the one I really like. Been in the news every day, last 7. We have 46 plus news articles in print, radio, and television about the industry in our province and what we need to do to try to help us stay competitive. Meetings with 20 plus MLAs, both NDP and Liberal, with constituents. That is huge. We've all come together as a group, as a community, as a family, as I like to say, and knocked on the doors of our MLAs and said, we need to listen to us, this industry matters and it needs to grow. So kudos to every one of these constituents, or every one of these people that have gone and actually met with their MLAs. I was lucky to get a meeting with Minister Bennett, who is the minister responsible for our industry, 4 MLAs in Victoria, to let them hear from the ground the people like you and me who stand and make films and work on sets every day and buy the product from vendors and all that sort of stuff. So actually taking that meeting in Victoria was fantastic. We gained support publicly from mayors Gregor Robertson in Vancouver, Derek Corrigan in Burnaby, Richard Walton in the district of North Vancouver, Mr. Mayor Ernie Dayken of Maple Ridge, of course he'll be here tonight, hopefully publicly he's coming up to support us. And hopefully getting as many of the mayors on board with us as possible, because We printed and distrode 12,000 plus posters, 11,000 plus bumper stickers, 3,800 buttons, 2,100 plus of the new film and TV dollars spent here stickers that we're trying to get out to all the vendors where we're spending our money. 150 banners and 80,000 movie money cards, which are the ones that you can take when you go and spend money at Walmart or grocery stores or wherever and say, I earn money in this industry and this is how I'm paid for my goods and services. This is the court of public opinion that we need to continue to educate the people in our province, not only our ministers and MLAs, we need to educate our neighbors as well. We've shot several PSAs, had meetings to get them on CTV, Global. We're meeting with Cineplex Odeon next week to get them on 135 screens, which is 11 theaters in the Lower Mainland. The festival theaters, Rio and Dunbar have already agreed to show our PSAs before films. Which has been a huge endeavor to actually get them approved, have now got CRTC approval. Thank you to David Markowitz for pumping and going through the paperwork and submitting it. We now have official CRTC approval, which is a big deal. For those of you who go to the bathroom in restaurants and facilities, the Zoom Media has now come on board and is offering to put up our PSAs in urinals for you guys, and for, beside the hand wash station in bathrooms for the ladies. So that's another big coup on David's part. We got that done. We're continuing to get people going to the avaz.org petition. We're over 30,000 people now that have signed that, so thank you very much. We continue to make this an election issue, and where some of the MLAs who are not interested in speaking to their constituents and not thinking that this is going to be an election issue, well, we're just going to keep trying. You can't argue with $17.7 billion worth of business since 1986 of film and television that's coming to this province. For a $1.7 billion investment in building this industry over 20 plus years, we still can't seem to have our government, and maybe even for ourselves, quantify the overall economic benefit to this province. And we need to continue to educate, and we need to continue to get data. We keep working with the Liberal government, we will work with the MPP government, we will work with the Conservative government. We don't really give up. Whoever is in power, we will implore them to continue to support our industry so we can help and make it grow and have something for the kids that are coming out of the 24 educational institutions, for places for them to work, as opposed to film school in Toronto, as I saw a sign on Facebook recently. So with that, I will move on to our first speaker of the evening, which is the Mayor of Maple Ridge, Mr. Ernie Dayken.
Thank you. Great turnout. It's good to see you. Earlier today, I was asked, so why are you speaking tonight? And what's the deal? And I said, the film industry is important to British Columbia, it's important to Maple Ridge, and I support the film industry in BC. And I'm here tonight to listen, to offer my support, and I want to acknowledge Councillor Hogarth. He's here this evening as well. Thanks, Al. I didn't see anybody else, but Al's on our economic advisory commission with me, and I'll touch a little bit on that and why that's important to Maple Ridge. To support you and to learn, because quite frankly, my wife reminds me of this daily, I don't have all the answers. So, there is a long history of the film industry in Maple Ridge, and going back to 81 with Rambo and out to Goldmere Park and up in the Pit Lake area. When I had my Windsor Plywood store back in the 70s and 80s, Bordertown was being constructed north of here, and was great because I had most of my merchandise was brand new and bright and fresh and shiny, but I did have that pile in the back of the old weathered lumber with knotholes that made a great old western town. We're no angels out at State Lake, Ruskin. that iconic movie, Happy Gilmore. It was filmed on the House of 27 parts of it. The reality is that the industry has been in our communities and in the province for years. And there's been some ups and downs and some challenges. And that's the difficult reality. But fast forward into this century, and between 2008 and 2012 in Maple Ridge, there was over 1,200 shoot days. And that's a lot. And Sandy Blue and Marc in our Economic Development Office have been great in supporting the industry in our community. And we have a conservative number of $10,000 a day per shoot day. It's not significant. And I think, and as I've learned over the past few weeks, we've got 700 folks that live in our communities that are involved in the industry. And there may be some actors, but there's more, there's accountants, there's folks in the trucking industry, there's folks that are involved in food and catering, location directors, carpenters, electricians, the whole gamut. And there's folks in our community that benefit. They're renting a parking lot, perhaps, or a restaurant, or a business, or a house. So there's all kinds of economic benefit to the community. There's lots of locations that are prime in Maple Ridge. We've got that great natural outdoors to the north. We've got 224th Street that can give you a look, that people are looking for. I'm not sure what they did in my office a couple of times, but they've used Municipal Hall. It's been a hospital. It's been a city hall. It's been a police station. It's been a number of things. And it speaks to the great potential that we have here. And I think it's important to recognize, and I said this to somebody today earlier in the media, it's not a bunch of folks flying in from California, from Hollywood, to do these movies or these productions. It's my neighbors. The majority of the folks are BC residents that are talented, that are creative, that are skilled, that work and live in our community, my community, and other communities. And with those dollars, those good dollars that you make, I know that you're in our restaurants. I know that you're buying shoes for your kids. I know that you're paying for haircuts. You're coming here to the act, to a theater presentation. You're buying new cars. Any number of things. So that's important to our community. And as I said earlier, one of our key focus areas with our Economic Development Office is the advanced technology sector. And in my view, that's the film industry. Because you've got animation, you've got special effects, you've got a lot of it's computerized, digitized, that I don't understand. There's also the location aspect of it as well. But that fits right into what Maple Ridge wants. And just to wrap it up, over the years I've said that the key to moving things forward is relationships. Positive, strong, constructive working relationships. And I think as you folks come together, you've got a range of trades, of sectors, you come together with a common goal. And part of that is to educate the residents, to educate the politicians, to educate at all levels of government the value and the importance of this industry to Maple Ridge and to British Columbia. So, I look forward to the next few speakers, and I look forward to what kind of solutions and discussions that come out of this. And I think together, we're a bunch of smart people, we can come up with a way that's going to work for the film industry.
In the last week, they dropped $40,000 in this community.
Well, no, I mean, everybody's got an official title, but my official title is Vice President of Marketing, but really, what I do with the company is pretty much the film industry. Consequently, one of the reasons, or the reason I guess I'm here tonight. I'd like to thank Gary and SaveBCFilm for inviting me here tonight to let everyone know about Western One Rentals and Sales and how much we're involved in the film industry. It's a very big piece of our company. I feel very quite honored to be here sitting with you guys on the stage. For those of you that really aren't familiar with us, Western One is a supplier of aerial lifts, condors in your business, and material lifting and handling equipment. We like to say we get you high legally. Western One was officially founded in 2006, but we've really been in the business for over 25 years. Starting off with Skyreach equipment, we have been servicing the film industry with production equipment since the late 80s. You may know the names Colin Franklin, Kit Williams. They were the original men that I started working for in 1993. In 1998, they left Skyreach, started their own company called Production Equipment. Production, I'd say it's Skyreach for another 7 months until they got production up and going. Production Equipment was originally started to only service the film industry, but it became quite apparent after the first couple of months that the film industry couldn't continuously support the number of machines you needed to support the film industry. So consequently, we ended up going into a couple of other markets. We started renting to a number of different places and ended up with the extra cash flow that allowed us to bring in more equipment until to the point where we would have those 6 80-foot machines that we wanted all together. And that consequently allowed us to build up our inventory to the point where we ended up having over 575 machines and 10 delivery trucks. Colin and Kit sold the company in August of 2006. We were purchased by a guy who's now our CEO and became a public company as he put us on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Being that Colin and Kit were the owners, they took the money and left. Being that I wasn't an owner, I didn't get any money, so I stayed. I still see them quite often. They're still very much involved in what's happening with the industry. They still have a lot of friends in the business, and I'd like to bring in their greetings. I like to tell this story because it shows our roots in the film industry and how I became part of it. I personally have been a member of the board of directors of MPPIA for over 8 years. Western One is very much a part of the industry. We take part in a number of events such as the Oppenheimer Christmas dinner. We go on marketing junkets. I go on marketing junkets to Los Angeles with MPPIA, and we sponsor a number of different film events throughout the year. Western One currently employs 142. Actually, that's not true. We just laid off 8 people. So now we currently employ 134 different people in 9 offices and branches throughout British Columbia. We currently have branches in Burnaby, Port Coquitlam, 2 in Victoria, 2 in Comox-Courtney, 1 in Kelowna, and 1 in Prince George. All of our branches are involved in film. Victoria services the film industry in southern Vancouver Island. Comox-Courtney services the industry in Campbell River in Courtney. We just opened our branches in Kelowna and Prince George this past summer. So if they ever come back with a sequel of Reindeer Games or Flicka, then we're able to accommodate them as well. Don't laugh, we're doing ACFC number 67 right now. Which we're glad to have them back. We have provided equipment to such features as X-Men, both of them, Fantastic Four, Mission Impossible, and then most recently, as far as the major features concerned, Superman and Man of Steel last year. We've done numerous commercials. We work with all the different people within the commercials. And we do a number of TV shows, Supernatural, Once Upon a Time, Arrow, Sight, Logan, etc. Revenue from our film division represents a very large percentage of our total business in British Columbia, with the majority being in the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island. The past 3 years, we have been conscious of the lack of film and TV productions coming to BC. Our revenue has suffered. Last year, 2012, particularly bad in the last 3 quarters, where revenue declined over 8% from 2011, which had already declined over 5% in 2010. Most of the first half of 2012 was good because we had Superman, but after it, that really dried up. This year, though, and this year, 2013 2013 has actually started off as our worst year in a number of years. Although we also have branches in Alberta, the only place we are involved in the film industry is in BC. To protect our company, a change that we could be faced with is to move equipment from BC and send it to Alberta, which quite honestly is doing very, very good business in the construction industry. We would still keep a presence in BC, of course, but if we don't get utilization, that would not only reduce our inventory here, but it would also reduce the infrastructure that we've developed here. The infrastructure, of course, are the mechanics and the drivers and the guys that really keep our business alive. It's this infrastructure that we think is the secret of our success in this industry. You know, it's one thing to know where MacGyver's cabin is, or isn't. But when somebody says they want a machine at 7 o'clock in the morning, they don't mean they want it at 6:45 or at 7:15. That's the kind of infrastructure that I'm talking about. Our guys know your business, and actually a lot of you know our guys. The most important element in our success is the ability to answer the call when the equipment changes because the weather changed, the shock changed, and instead of needing a 60-foot machine, you all of a sudden need an 80-foot. Today we can make that switch, and most often we still can be on time. If something breaks, which as much as I hate to admit it does happen, then the secret, then the ability to have a mechanic or another machine there pronto is the essence of this whole thing. I'm very proud to say that in the last 25 years, to my knowledge, I think we've only lost 3 shots due to machine malfunctions. I personally would really like to see the Liberal Party win the upcoming election, personally. But in all honesty, I'm having a real hard time convincing myself why I should vote for them when I don't see them wanting to support me or my business at all. We exist as a viable business here in large due to the film industry. We have spent millions and millions of dollars building up our inventory and our infrastructure every year in order to supply the film industry with top-notch equipment. Last year, in fact, we spent over $4.5 million on film-related equipment. We rely on this industry to bring in the productions, and then we can go into action. If there are no productions, our business will suffer greatly, and we'll have to look at other solutions to survive. As you know, we are one of many suppliers who are pleading with the government to help us out. I find it very confusing and frustrating with the apparent attitude our current government seems to have. Thank you again for inviting me.
And what's at stake? I mean, at 2009, we had $1.3 billion spent in this province. It was spent on wages, it was spent on purchases and rentals, and that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money coming into this province, and it's a lot of jobs that are attached. And we typically quote 25,000 jobs in the province attached to the film industry, and that's direct and indirect jobs. But the most recent report from the CMPA also made an estimate of the spin-off jobs, and that brought it up to 36,000. And that's what we're talking about, people working in supply. We're talking about people working in the community here in Maple Ridge that are getting the benefit of those dollars spent from continuing another productions. And their livelihoods are also at stake here because we are no longer the third largest production center. We've dropped to fourth or fifth or sixth, depending on the numbers that you believe. Certainly fourth after Ontario. But the other jurisdictions that we're competing with more and more are places like Louisiana and Georgia, who have taken the British Columbia model of investing early and putting money into building infrastructure and building crews based on an appealing tax credit model, and they've taken what has worked for us and used it to their advantage, and we've slipped behind. And that's not acceptable. We want to continue growing. The film industry is an important anchor of the greater creative economy, and creative economies, for those of you that do not know, grow faster than the regular economy, and it's a job-intensive area of the economy. It does not require anybody to rip crap out of the ground. It's people expressing their talents and building in not only entertainment but other venues for people to communicate and to share their stories. And it's an important part of what we do in British Columbia. It's an important part of what British Columbia does for not only Canada but the world. And we're here to try and get that back because we deserve to be number 3. We've built it. And back in. So for those of you that don't know, IATSE Local 891 is a member of the EDC, where a lot of the people that have organized this event are members of the Western One. Steve Taylor mentioned that he's a member of it. He has been for a long time. And when we're working together, we're a strong voice. And it's one of the few industry associations that has labor together with employers working for a common goal. You don't see that a lot, and it just shows about how we all work together, because we work together for each other, we work together for the province, and we do it because we're proud of what we do, we love this industry, and we want to keep it going. That $1 billion investment is at stake, and what we have in the industry, and looking ahead, there are 24 post-secondary institutions that have film programs, and ultimately there's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of jobs for families, a lot of jobs for the community, and it's a shining industry in the province. We want it to continue, and we're all here to try and do what we can, and it's been great that so many people are engaged, because we've never had the focus and attention that everybody here has brought to the industry to have our voices heard, make it an important election issue, and let's all keep on the fight together and make it work. Thank you very much.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bennett. I'm a production manager here at the film and television industry. I've been in the business for 23 years, and I'm kind of the de facto spokesperson for SaveBCFilm. Let's briefly open up the microphones for a few questions. We'll do, as I said, 2 or 3 per group of 3 speakers, and there you go. Have at her, and how are you? He's always first.
Well, you got to try to remember one sometimes. This is more of a thank you to all the local businesses that allow us to put up the signage in their businesses, and we really appreciate their support. On the other hand, to the people who ripped down about the 200 signs that I put up, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. But for the businesses, thank you very much for your hard work.
talking about, Paul, do we actually know who started the tax incentive initially? Like what government was it? Socrates, NDP, Liberals? Do we know actually how this all even started?
I can answer that too.
You know, the Canadian federal government started the tax incentive programs. And the first province to jump on was Nova Scotia, but British Columbia, I believe, was number 2. So it was us. It was the NDP government in what year? 1998. There we go.
1998,
Yeah.
the NDP government jumped on the incentive that was serviced by, and which government was the federal government at the time?
But the Liberals.
So it was the Liberal incentive sent and jumped on by the NDP. Just bring it up.
Your point.
Anybody else at this present point in time? No. Wow, this is moving along quite well. Let's move on to the president of IATSE 891, Mitch.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Mitch Davies, and I am the president of the IATSE Local 891. I just want to thank some of the people that put this together tonight: Gary Brook, LU, Robin, Jobin. I don't know who Robin is, but I know he helped, and other you and the entire group of this diligent, proactive film community here at Maple Ridge that came out tonight, and everybody that showed up. I just want to say thank you very much. This is really impressive. I wish we could get this many people at a general meeting. I am extremely proud to represent the nearly 5,000 hardworking members that make up the IATSE 891, the largest film union in British Columbia. Over the years, our membership has played a huge part in the building of this industry. We have developed an international reputation that has helped us forge strong and healthy relationships with many studios, producers, unions, guilds, and industry suppliers. Helping to maintain these long-term relationships is one of the tax services Representative Paul Klausen pursues for our union and for the entire film community. You know, we as film workers, suppliers, small businesses, we also build these relationships every time we go to work or provide services and goods needed for productions. Every time we hear praise about how good we are in BC when it comes to our experience and dedication to our craft, we are helping these relationships to grow. We are doing it together as a film community. However, all the successes we have achieved, the beautiful scenery our province offers, the benefit of sharing the same time zone with Los Angeles, all of this still does not mean that productions will continue to come here. Many of our members have been out of work for long stretches of time. Some businesses dependent on film production are closing their doors. Talent is leaving the province. Our infrastructure is at risk. We know what we need. We need to simply bring more productions to BC, especially the big budget features. To do that, we need to do this. Rally together. Continue to move the dialogue forward. The IATSE 891 has and will continue to support efforts made by our members to get our message across. All 6 labor unions and guilds have held an information meeting last week at the Massey Theatre for our members. We had Bob Wong, the resident tax credit specialist, on hand to answer questions so our members would be more informed. And we really wanted to bring home the fact that the BC film industry is a major economic benefit to our economy in this province. The IATSE 891 is attending upcoming political functions and meetings with MLAs as well as candidates. And I'm telling you, and it's been pointed out out tonight and at other meetings that our provincial politicians are listening. We have here tonight several esteemed MLAs. There were MLAs and candidates from the Liberal Party, the NDP, and the Conservative Party at the town hall meeting at the North Shore Studios, where 4,000 plus people showed up in support of this industry. Flew down to Los Angeles in January for 2 days of discussion with studios, producers, filmmakers concerning the decline of our industry. The film business received an honorable mention in the speech to the legislature when the budget was announced. NDP finance critic Bruce Ralston spoke to last week's provincial budget. Mr. Ralston said, and I quote, "There is also nothing new to support our creative and innovation sectors such as film, television, digital media, life sciences, and high tech." Liberal MLA Minister of Culture, Liberal MLA Minister of Community, Sport and Culture, Bill Bennett, he visited production services on Friday. I don't think Bill Bennett was there to rent any equipment. MLA Bill Bennett and the leader of the NDP, MLA have indicated we need a post-election conversation about the decline in our industry. Look around. Because what we are doing right now is making this a pre-election conversation about our declining industry and what we can do about it. And this is what we can do. We can meet, we can move the agenda, we have to be involved. Not just the MLAs, but the candidates. We need to question them about their support for the British Columbia film industry. Speaking to them personally is preferable, and we'll have a chance tonight. However, a handwritten letter is the next best way to elicit response. Not an email, it's easy to email, but really get the pen out, a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, send it off. They really, really do pay attention to that. One thing we must do is we must treat all parties with a high level of respect, because we will have to work together with the party that forms government in May, as well as the opposition party, to ensure the growth in the BC film industry. The state of the BC film industry has become an election issue. One of our strategies in the IATSE in the upcoming months is to encourage our membership, active and retired, that's 5,000 plus members, to understand these issues and to make an informed decision so they vote in support of our industry and their jobs on May the 14th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. I'm sorry if I have these little anecdotes, but everybody says something to kind of tweak something in my little feeble brain, so I'm going to share these with you. When I met with Mr. Bennett this week, I needed to acknowledge to him and the Liberal government, as well as I need to do it publicly, that we as an industry thank the current government who's been in power for
you guys about my role in the film industry. I was quite honored because it's an important thing for all of us. He did originally tell me it would be a little small gathering of 20 or so people, so I thought I'd come up here and wing it. A couple days ago he called me and said, here's the big itinerary. It's Bennett will be there, who's been a very eloquent spokesman for us. Mayor Dayken will be here, and many other people that speak publicly. So that was my oh my God moment. I realized that I had to write something down. So this morning I woke up at 4 in the morning and started to scribble some notes down, thinking I'd come home tonight after work and add a little stuff and then do my speech tomorrow. I found out today from Marc that actually, she said to me this morning when I called her, I look forward to hearing your speech tonight. It made my oh God moment feel like a fond memory. So, in between working today, and yes, I am working, I'm one of the lucky few that I'm working. However, I am working in a role that's 3 levels beneath what I've been trained for. There's a lot of people out here that aren't working, so I cannot be ungrateful. However, I think we all deserve to be working in a business that we've trained for, to be working in the roles that we are good at doing, not in a role that is beneath. Not to say that it's not a good thing, but we have worked hard to get the positions that we're in, and we deserve to be in those positions. Yeah. So, as you can imagine, when I found out I was actually speaking tonight, my little script here was half written. I scrambled in between my screaming boss and my many chores I had to do at work today, trying to put something together. So if I bumble through this like Hugh Grant does in all his movies, please forgive me. I am nowhere near as handsome or as charming as him, so forgive me if I slip up now and then. You know, I love this business. This business means more to me than, I can actually put it in words, but I will try my best. The people that we touch in our business, I have this saying I've been using lately, our industry is it's not just about our business, it's about all business. Because there's no other industry in this province or across Canada that actually touches more people. As everyone stated, the lumber company uses, we use their wood, and the clothing company, we buy clothes and food, and cleaners, and everybody is touched by us. Just told a story earlier here about I had to film in a hotel room, which was a smoking room. It was the biggest room in the hotel. And the actors, of course, can't film all day in this room, so I hired a cleaner. And he came in and he cleaned the room and scrubbed the walls and did a great job so it didn't smell like smoke anymore. And after I paid him $500 for this job, which probably took him about an hour and a half, and he did it himself, so it was probably about $50 a project. He says, Reco, how does the film industry affect me? And I said, well, you wouldn't have had this job had we not been filming in this location. So now you've made probably $400, $450 profit, of which you might go out and take your wife out to dinner, and that restaurant's going to have a better day. You're going to maybe you'll buy your wife a nice outfit, or you'll spend some money on some new equipment. You're going to spend that money. It's going to go somewhere else. It's not just going to stay in your pocket. So money that we in the film industry gave him is now going to go to somebody else, it's going to go to somebody else, it's going to go to somebody else. And that's the thing that people have to realize about our business. It's not just a bunch of people working in this business, making good money for working long hours. It's about people doing a good regular job that we take pride in, and we're able to share that money with so many more people. I've worked with some people's houses, and they have so much money, it's ridiculous. And they've allowed us to film in their homes. And we say to them, what do you do with the money? And they give it to charity. That's a lot of money. That we're paying $10,000 a day for. So you can imagine someone suddenly saying, here you go, some charity, here's $30,000 or $40,000. It's not donated directly from us, but we're a part of it. We should feel proud of something like that. We're all just regular people here, but I don't want to talk about the rich people. I want to talk about the regular people. They're trying to make their mortgage payments. They're trying to send their kids to, camp. They're trying to, we all want to be able to do a series this year called Bates Motel. I was lucky enough to be on a series, thank goodness, because otherwise I'd be living in Madam Clark's basement suite. But we filmed there, and I talked to a lot of people. They become friends with the people in Fort Langley. Like, I know them very well. I call them first by name. We invite them into their shops and we talk. And it was their worst Christmas in 8 years. And we filmed there in January. And we had a scene where we had to film. We rented a bunch of the places to do some filming at. And we had to ask them to leave all their lights on at night. And so we paid them all a few $100s to do this and to use their names. And it may not seem like a lot of money, but that couple $100 and that exposure to the businesses, you know, made me feel good about being able to share that kind of money with them. You know, they embrace us. They want us to be there. Our show filmed there quite a lot, and the people who were on our show would buy things when they were there. They would, you know, buy things in the stores. We'd spend money there. We weren't just coming there and filming. We were actually becoming a part of the community. And now, when we were talking to the crew at the end of the year, they go back there with their families and they spend money there. They become part of that community, which is encouraging. You know, we're not just gypsies that come into town, make a movie, and then go away. We actually become part of the family. Once Upon a Time, that's a very popular show. God, I wish I was working on that. We followed them in Stevenson every once in a while, and Stevenson has embraced them. There are tour buses that come to Stevenson now with people that want to go eat at Granny's Diner, that want to shop in Storybrooke. It brings revenue in from other places. They want to go to these places. I met a real estate agent today. He showed me a place for scouting for an office space. So a real estate agent was helping us out today. He met at MPPIA and showed me this building. And he takes great pride in saying to his girlfriend, yeah, I grew up in Storybrooke, because it's one of her favorite shows. And it's just funny how these little things will touch people. You know, we're just not a bunch of people making movies. We're about making friends and, you know, doing what we can. I guess I'm in Maple Ridge, Mayor Dayken. I've actually filmed in Mayor Dayken's office. Thank you very much. He's a great supporter of film. And hats off to him. I wish more people in the power that he is would be as supportive as us. You know, he ripped his chair. Sorry. Sorry there, Dayken. We put some duct tape on that. You know, I did a movie a few years ago in Vesuvius, and they know you're a local when you call it Vesuvius. Don't call it Vesuvius, they're from out of town. And we were up there for about 2 months building a western town up there. And we hired local people to do it. And we got all the lumber from up there. And then we filmed up there for 3 weeks. We stayed in hotels. And we spent a lot of money up there. And this was during their off season. And they were so happy to have us there. We put about $750,000 in their economy while we were there. It's a lot of money. This business is a great business because, you know, I used to do photography and I used to, you know, do weddings and I'd give too much away for free. And it wouldn't help me that much. But now I can give stuff away to people and it's a benefit that doesn't cost me. I enjoy the fact that I'm able to share some of our money with some people that have become my friends in these communities that we film in. We're more than a bunch of people who make a lot of money, working long hours. We just have to work in a high-profile business that a lot of people are aware of us. We just want to work, raise our families, pay our taxes, and be a part of the province that we all are proud to live in. That's who we really are. I don't want to go on forever because God knows I could if I really wanted to. Those who know me know I can blab on forever. It's true, I talk a lot. I just want to read a letter that I've been trying to help Wayne gather some information, some stats and things from different groups and things. An example, I'll throw one up before I read this. The Vancouver School Board made $374,000 in 2011 because of film revenues. That's a fact. I I'd like to think that maybe that some computers were bought for some schools, or they hired a couple extra teachers, or some programs were put in place because of that money generated because of film. We park our trucks on their property. This is a letter I got from a very good friend of mine, Brigitte, at the Langley School Board. And she wrote a very heartfelt letter, and I'd like to share this with you. On behalf of the Langley School District, I write this letter to show our support to the BC film industry. It has been a great financial benefit for us as a school district. It's been trying to pay off a $13.5 million deficit over the last few years. Fortunately, it will be paid off this year with the help from the proceeds brought in from filming done in the Langley School District. The Langley School District has 3 elementary schools that are closed due to previous budget cuts related to enrollment declines in certain areas of the district. The most beneficial thing for our district has been renting 2 of our closed schools a season at a time. We had one production company rent 1 school for 3 seasons prior to the district selling this property this past December. Another production company is currently renting another closed site, and they are hoping to stay there for next season. The 3rd site is currently being used for filming or parking. We will rent for the production company's unexpected income for the school district, and a presence on the site instead of sitting vacant with the risk of being vandalized make this a win-win situation for us all. Since most of our schools, open or closed, are BC 200s, talks about the credits, I don't really care about that right now. As for the students in Langley, they benefit too. Depending on the production and what location is chosen, some students work with the production team and gain work experience. Others work as extras, and there are some students who have their artwork used by the set deck department. Several productions donate various items, money to the school for various programs. We've had a few of our Langley School District graduates who have gone on to university, UBC and Capron, and become producers and directors. We gave them the opportunity to film in our district office and help them pursue their careers. They were very appreciative. That means a lot to me, because it means that we're impacting these people. We're making a difference. We're not, like I said, a bunch of people getting paid a lot of money to do a job. We work long hours, we work hard, we pay taxes, we live here, and we're giving back. The money keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. I'm going to go roll, so I'll keep rolling and rolling and rolling.
These are the film dollars spent here stickers that we're trying to get out to all of our vendors, and it's very similar to the restaurant Zagat rated, or the stickers that these people put in their windows. But we want these to be put in all vendors' windows that either support directly or indirectly our industry, so we can get the word out further to the public that the money is being spent in each of our communities. Just on the donation front, in the school district, I did a series a couple years ago called Life Unexpected, and the series ended, and we had thousands upon thousands of items we had to sell and or dispose of. At the end of it, we had reams of fabric. Nobody's buying them. It's like, what are we going to do with it? So we estimated it to be about $5,000 to $6,000 worth of fabric. I took it to School District 43 in Coquitlam. They take it, cut it all up, send it out to the elementary schools for them to use as art projects. That's what this industry does. Countless truckloads of costumes at the ends of series and ends of shows are being donated to not only the usual suspects, the Salvation Army and Value Village and all that kind of stuff, but directly to shelters that give it directly to these people as opposed to resell it. So that is another thing that this industry does on a large scale. Finally, in this group of 3, the Secretary-Treasurer of Teamsters 155, Ken Marsden.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming tonight. I've been asked to speak tonight on how the Teamsters have been integral to building the industry in BC. And I'm going to try and keep it a little bit personal and a little bit short. And the other question that was posed was, and what would happen, and what would the effect be if the industry continues to move eastward and move to other jurisdictions? I'm going to answer that part first. Teamsters Local 155 is only one of 2 dedicated film industry locals in North America. The other one is 399 in Hollywood. So if the industry leaves and continues its downward spiral, numbers for some of the equipment that is in town that our members have established. Action Enterprises, who basically, most of you know, supply cube vans to the industry for set deck construction, 45 trucks at a cost of $45,000 to $50,000 to $55,000 a truck. I talked to Scott Rainyard, who owns the company, this evening on the way out here, and he was telling me that he's now having to tell his suppliers, cancel my orders. I can't take the orders that I placed because the work's not here. I can't replace my fleet. So his suppliers, Ford, Mineru Truck and Body, the tailgate people, they're not getting their supplies. Their people are being laid off for exactly the same reason. It's the spin-off effect that's affecting everybody. Western Wind, 80 trucks. And that's camera trucks, Air Makeup, Honey Wagons, Star Wagons. Vancouver Mobile, the same, 80. 81 Transport, 75 vehicles. 911 billing cars. Ian Thompson, who I hope some of you were on the bus that Ian supplied tonight to go. Himself, 170 vehicles. Herbert's equipment, 140 vehicles. The numbers are staggering, and out of that is the insurance that goes into that, the mechanics that have to be hired to service those trucks, the tires that have to be bought, the oil, everything that goes into maintaining and keeping that kind of equipment on the road. Again, the spin-off effect of what happens with this industry and the number of people that benefit from what we do. Also with that, catering. $300,000 to build a brand new catering truck and a support vehicle to follow it along with all the food and supplies, and to have an awning on the side of it so you can eat under cover when you're having lunch. And it's not just about the trucks. It's about our animal handlers. We represent animal handlers, the trainers, and the wranglers. Well, they have to have, and Virtue, his ranch out in ACFC or beyond ACFC. Our animal trainers who have to have and house and feed and care for all of those animals. Well, they have to be trained every day. It's not when you just go to work, you get in, and you fire up the truck, and the truck moves out. Those animals have to go to be trained every single day, and they have to be fed every single day, whether they work or not. And they have to go to the vet, and they have to have their shots, and they have to have all their medical certificates to qualify. And they have to be available when a production comes. Because if a production comes to BC, and I need a dog, I need a cat, I need this, and we're not able to supply, those productions are going to stop coming. That's part of the infrastructure. Our marine division, the huge investment that they put into their boats and their supplies and the equipment that they do when the production wants to go on the water. Safety divers, all of the training and the equipment that they have to go through to put in. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. Right now we have 853 members, full members of the Teamsters, with 360 permits. Now the permits have to wait. They're all striving to get full membership in the local. They want to work as much as everybody else wants to work, but because of the slowdown and the lack of growth, they're having to wait longer to get in. It just keeps snowballing all the time. And another big concern for us at the union and for our members is if you don't work enough, and we're on the hour bank, as I'm sure most of you understand how the hour bank system works. If you don't work the hours, your medical stops. You don't get your benefits. Now you have to self-pay. Well, how do you self-pay if you're not working? So now you have to start making a choice. Do I pay my mortgage? Do I buy my kids new shoes? Do I afford to do a small repair around the house? No, you can't, because now you're having to pay for your medical because your benefits are being cut off. And you can only pay for a year under our plan. 1 year, and then you're done if you're not getting your hours built out. So another big concern for us is the lack of growth. We just did an interesting, I'm going to wrap it up right now, the book is not complete, but we have over 700 vendors that our drivers go to on a daily basis. Not 700 every day, but there's a list of 700 vendors in the Lower Mainland that our drivers go to, where they're dispatched by production, by set deck, by wardrobe, by the caterers, by the production office to go and take care of productions. And that's an amazing number. And, you know, through that list, we're going to try and get the word out to them. We're going to use that list to get some of the stickers in the windows to help us out. And I guess if anybody has questions when I'm done, please feel free. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. I can help you with that vendor list, by the way. I just got the NBC Universal, NBC, obviously the big television network, produces a lot of product, has historically produced a lot in British Columbia and is now across the country. I just got their master vendor list. Because it's done internally at the studio in Los Angeles now. It's not done by each individual accounting department. You're in it. I'm not talking the Reco team. I'm talking the vendor list. And we have 3 volunteers in today whittling out all the stuff from those other provinces to give us our list. So I'm going to share with you the Excel list and we can cross-reference and see where we end up. Because I think it's in excess of 1,000 vendors in British Columbia, and that covers other regions that they shoot at. So we'll open the microphones again. If anybody has any questions for any of these 6 people that have spoken so far, please feel free to step up. Hello, Bennett, Brunswick.
Hello. I just wanted to make a point to what Ken said about medical. I have 3 kids. I work in this industry. My youngest son, 7 years old, is autistic. I do not get funding from the government for him. If it wasn't for our medical plan, I would not be able to give him the services he gets today to attend a regular school in Maple Ridge.
Microphone over to my right.
I have a feeling I knocked on your door and met your husband and your autistic son not too long ago. Do you live in Hammond?
No, I live up in Rockford.
Okay, isn't that interesting? Because the husband was there, and he said his wife was in the film industry, and he had an autistic son, but I think he was a little bit older. But I'm a mom of 3 kids too, and my question is a little bit related to my kids too. My kids are 17, 20, and 23. And, you know, when you got 3 kids in that age group, you look around and you think, you know, what are they going to do with their lives to make a living? How are they going to be able to afford a home and have a family of their own? Or are they just going to live in my basement forever, right? And of course, you know, we know there's an awful, you know, there's a lot of inequality, a big gap, a lot of real low-paid jobs. And, you know, in the NDP, we really want a healthy middle class because we understand how that percolates. And, you know, I certainly grew up in, you know, Ontario in a heavy industry area, and I understand the benefits of a healthy middle class. Unfortunately, back then, it was all heavy industry which polluted. And one thing I love about the film industry is that it's light on the land, you know? So I guess this is a big lead up to my question, which is, do we tell our young people to go to any of those 24 institutions that are preparing them for a life in the film industry? Or do we, you know, even the kids who are inclined toward those creative industries, do we say, don't waste your time, there's not going to be anything in it for you? Like, what do you tell your kid who's 18 and loves movies about going into this industry?
Sure, I just wanted to add one very brief thing. First, I was asked to speak about Teamsters, and I realize that everybody here in the room, from 891 through all of the other unions and guilds, everybody's invested. The grips, the electricians, the carpenters, and I understand that they put money back into the industry as we all have, and we've all sacrificed. So I didn't want to, you know, not acknowledge that that was there. But I really want to make one thing clear. With all the if the business leaves, that truck doesn't work anymore. They've lost $450,000 or times 80. And that's the kind of risk and sacrifice and chances that they've taken to build that equipment and to build the infrastructure in this province. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
There are people that are coming out of Catalan University right now that showed up at our town hall meeting on January 22nd and spoke at the town hall meeting in front of 4,000 people they didn't even know, all concerned about where are they going to have to go to get a job. Gina Olazarowicz, who used to be a makeup artist, is, I think, here tonight. Her son, oh, there's Gina there. She went with me to Victoria to put a face to the real people, you know, when we went to Victoria and spoke with Mr. Dalton and the minister. And her son had just graduated from Catalan University, wants to be a boom operator, but can't get a job. So what do you do? What do we do? We try to encourage them that the work that we are all doing now is hopefully going to pay off, so there is a job for them to go to, and that there is a career that they can build in this industry, in this province, and not have to pick up and go elsewhere. So we're going to help with that.
Well, I'm calling Mitch, and I'm a production manager here, and I've been in the business about 28 years. So the loss of this, and my husband's in the business. My daughter's an actress, and then my son does extra work. So this means quite a lot to me if this business goes away. I just wanted to say, I personally can't believe that the current government isn't willing to rethink what they said. It blows my mind that they appear to not understand this domino effect that we provide. And then I also just wanted to sort of say, here, I think, are here because we understand the impact. And I don't want any of us to lose our passion for keeping this in everybody's vision. And it's to continue to, I make notes and everything. I want you to stay inspired and stay involved and stay present and visual. And I talked to Wayne about we need to get t-shirts and we need to wear them to work. If as a production manager, that's a little risky. I'm not sure that the producers would agree with me, but I want it to be a positive thing. Like, we're BC film workers. We work hard. We work well. We've earned this position, third in the world of film. Just stay inspired, and that's it. I don't have any questions except for the politicians. Thank you for coming. Thank you for paying attention.
My name is Paul Daniels. I'm a member of Sheet Metal Workers Union. My wife works in your industry. I don't, but I know a lot of my companies in my industry work with your industry. So my comment is really, I'm hoping for the MLAs that are here or possible future ones to answer. It seems to me that our Teamster rep here said it the best, and I was trying to say I couldn't figure out how to. Private sector has done its job. You guys have built your industry, you've built your infrastructure. The Liberals have harped since they've been on power, and I'll challenge you on that. Private sector is here. These aren't public sector unions. These are private sector. They have to be competitive. They have to be competitive against their non-union counterparts, here and in LA and around North America. So private sector has done its job. What they can't do is control what you do. And now it's your job to make British Columbia competitive against the rest of the country.
It seems like we talked to the government, we talked to
because I would like to put myself in saying that the film industry in BC needs the government help with tax breaks, with better training and better education, and then maybe we can become another business like we were back in the 90s. We were top in the 90s, now we're the lowest ones. Okay, so that's the only thing I have to say.
I'm just going to take one more question over here for this group, this section, and then we'll have a little bit more time in the end. David?
Hi, my name is David Markowitz from SaveBCFilm. I have many questions, too many to ask at this point. But I'd like to ask this question. I'm a little emotional because I've been working hard for a lot of months on this. This is to our MPP guests and to our liberal guests, both sides. And if both of you can take a turn answering, it'd be great. I noticed just recently, Christy Clark just announced that she's going to give over $100 million worth of subsidies or incentives to the natural gas roads that need to be built in our upper province. As much as I feel that's important, and I think the growth of this province is important, obviously, because I've been working for 50 days straight with no pay, to try to get us a better industry. I just want to know how it is important and how the government can do a flip-flop. And I'd really like to hear an answer to this and say that the subsidies and or incentives they're giving is money coming back. When they say our subsidy and incentives aren't coming back and we've hit our top end. So what I'm trying to find out from the government is, it seems to be a two-sided answer. When we say we need to get to a parallel or close to a level playing ground with Ontario, we're not getting it. Because we've hit our quota, whatever that quota is, even though they're not even sure what the number is, and they're the one giving us money, or giving the incentive program. So I guess my bottom line question is, how can a government say it's a subsidy or incentive for natural gas to put in roads for something that's going to eventually get their money back, and it's not a problem, when they can't support an industry that's proven over the last 10 years easily or more that we're $1 billion enterprise and we're all here as family members and workers and people who care about this industry. So I guess I need an answer, or maybe some kind of answer for both of you.
Dalton and Michael and Spencer will be speaking in the next group. I'm hoping that maybe they will address that question as they are speaking. So let's move on. We're going to go to Mielnicki now, the Chief Steward of ACFC.
Thanks to all of your attendance this evening. It's fantastic. If I knew this podium was going to be this low, I would use larger font. There you go. I'm really pleased to stand here in solidarity with the other unions and guilds toward our common goal of ensuring BC remains competitive in film and television production. Obviously, we're here because most of us are really aware of what's going on and all the chatter that's been going around recently. I just want to speak, first of all, about what I'm hearing from the perspective of technicians. It's been fairly evident that technicians, you workers, have been continuing to make every effort to ensure that you're working as effectively and efficiently as possible. I think that's really important to note because when we're talking about tax incentives, we're talking about finding those margins of efficiencies that we need. And there's been a murmur in the background that perhaps the technicians aren't doing enough, and I can tell you that that's not the case. Technicians are working hard on these shows, probably harder than ever before, to maintain that competitive edge that we enjoy in this city from our labor pool. I just visited a construction shop on a production Friday, and frankly, to a person, they were all working extremely hard. The technicians were under pressure to complete a build, and they were responding with skill and determination, which is the theme that we're seeing more and more. And I think that you can look at the evolution of our industry in the last 3 years in particular, since Ontario adjusted their incentives to be superior to ours. And we can see that this pressure has really increased on technicians. My concern is that this pressure continues, more and more people may simply decide to leave the business, as we have seen some do over the last 3 years. I mean, it's the instability in general of piecework that we have as a natural element of our industry, in conjunction with all of the other challenges of leading a healthy lifestyle in our business. And I think these things are collectively beginning to convince some people that doing the job they love may no longer be worth it. And that's really a pretty tragic thing. And this presents obvious risks because if you lose trained people, it is not long before the industry cannot support healthy production levels. And it becomes harder to attract work, and then infrastructure declines as it sits unused. Before you know it, the entire viability of the industry can be at stake. So fundamentally, technicians have been doing their part. Which brings us to the undeniable reality that right now, in respect to the creative product we manufacture, tax-based incentive systems make or break competitiveness. That's undeniable. And our government and potential government members need to address that and realize it. Now, my previous comments are somewhat thematic of survival, but why would we want to merely survive? What should our real goal be? I mean, after all, we've demonstrated a vision for our industry at different times in the past. On this point, I will say there's no irony to the fact that this meeting is taking place in Maple Ridge. Regional tax incentives envisioned an opportunity for municipalities other than Vancouver to benefit from the industry. And it has been successful. Over the years, we've been involved in many productions regularly shot between 200th Street in Maple Ridge or Langley and 264th Street in Aldergrove. Now, it may be true that no one envisioned the eventual conversion of an equestrian barn to studio space in Aldergrove, but that just goes to show creativity and dynamism of our industry and people trying to find something that will work in this area. But what we've been lacking for a long time is a coherent, government-supported vision across all screen-based media to take advantage of our talent and infrastructure. One that is designed to move our collective industry back into a premier position globally. Perhaps a newly formed CreateBC will be able to play a valuable role in that respect, but it remains to be seen as part of a longer-term strategy. A strategy that is as important as incentives to the existence of film and television production in British Columbia. A friend of mine was a senior advisor to the McGuinty government in Ontario, and she played a role in developing their cohesive screen-based strategy, one aspect of which being the incentives they offer. And she's given me some insight into their thinking. She explained that they set out a policy defined by the vision of making Ontario a global leader in screen-based media. Bottom line, that was what they intended. They sought to create a system that developed and enhanced the relationships and linkages between visual effects companies, post-production firms, video game producers, animation production houses, and film and television production companies. Their vision was to have executive producers arrive in Ontario, produce their films or TV content, do their post-production, and create the video games that are often a component of the overall entertainment strategy of such companies. Ontario sought to be a global leader in screen-based media and embarked on a path that was defined by this vision. We need our government to believe in that kind of vision too, in this province. I believe our interest ought not to be merely in maintaining, but alternatively ought to be about growing. Effectively, we need to develop and implement a cohesive strategy that partners industry and government in pursuit of that vision. In this broader context, we can see that incentives play one role. They must not be regarded as the be-all and end-all, but make no mistake, competitive incentives for British Columbia have critical importance to our industry. So this brings me to my comment about the challenge. I want to leave this meeting having presented my belief that incentives represent a first step toward a more positive vision. more than just the maintenance of the status quo. The provincial government has stated that they are open to working together toward greater opportunities for screen-based media. So let's do it. Let's get going on it. Get CreateBC up and running. I know it's soon for them, and they've begun to work through the process with integrating BC Film, but the government must give them the support they need and must follow through such that their mandate can be delivered and realized. That's critical. And if the other party prevails in the next provincial election, this challenge will be yours as well. In the end, I really believe if we follow through on a collective vision, you can be sure that the executive producers will bring globally stock production dollars to Vancouver and British Columbia in general to help us grow our industry so that someday, not far off, we can talk about a $2 billion a year industry and the opportunity for more.
We'll now move on to our MLAs of the evening. NDP MLA with Michael Sather.
And it's been very instructive for me to meet with the local film industry and to get a much fuller understanding of the challenges that you're facing. And you certainly convinced me that this is serious, that you haven't had these kinds of challenges, and also hearing the personal stories, and we heard some of them tonight. It makes it very clear that this is real stuff. I mean, people don't work for a month, don't work for 2 months, any of us. Suddenly we're in an entirely different situation. We're used to making a good wage, a decent wage, and then boom, nothing. It's very difficult for anyone to cope with. So my role, I felt, was to encourage the local industry to put forward your vision and to continue to do that, and being creative and resourceful people that you are, you're doing in the space. It's a great turnout, and it's a testament to the will of the people here in our industry. And in the fact, I think it's pretty clear that in Maple Ridge, you have a lot of support. I think we all love to see the movies happening in our town, and it's very exciting. And to know all the spin-off effects that are happening is just great. I wanted now to introduce my colleague. Spencer Chandra Herbert is the NDP MLA for Vancouver-West and has been the NDP's lead advocate for film, tourism, and arts and culture in the legislature. He's a dog with a bone, I'll tell you, this guy. He never gets up. He's fought for film jobs consistently over the last term of this government. Before being elected as MLA, Spencer worked in the arts as a producer and general manager. So I just wanted to bring Spencer up and introduce him.
Hello, Maple Ridge. Hello, friends from Mission, Pitt Meadows, Langley, Tsawwassen, Port Coquitlam, on and on and on, Vancouver. I know we've got a good audience out today. Well, first I just want to say thank you to Wayne Bennett. Wayne, yourself and all of sports side wasn't really for me, and so eventually I got into politics, which I guess politics they call Hollywood for ugly people. So there we are. So, but I've been the critic for 4 years, the advocate for 4 years. Over that time, I've had 4 film ministers, 4 ministers responsible for film. I've got to say that's been really challenging, because just as a minister starts to potentially meet some of the people who are up here on stage, they get shuffled out and then there's somebody brand new. It's given me a real advantage because I've got to build roots into the community all across BC and to see what incredible support there is. Now, over that time, it hasn't been pretty. You know it better than I do because you've lived it. I look at the domestic film industry. 2008, we had about $400 million worth of business. What we've got now, it hovers between 150 million, 200 million. It's a 50% decrease. Now, I would stand in the legislature and say, look at this, Honourable Minister, look at this, Liberal government. We need to take action. We can't just see a sector like this decline in such a massive way and do nothing. And what would I be told by inevitably minister after minister after minister after minister was, well, we'll look at it, we'll study it, we'll think about it. And meanwhile, things continue to get worse. Now, why did the crisis hit today? Why did it hit this month? Why does it hit now? Well, for many, it hit much earlier, but things take time. There's a lag. You know, we see shows set up, they're here for years. They don't want to move, they don't have to. They're hoping that the government will eventually realize that we need to be more competitive. But now, after Ontario moved, we've had much more lag time, and finally I think it's hitting in a big way now. It's the same on the foreign service side, and you know it again better than I do. Now, the MPPIA, obviously, was mentioned earlier, fought for the film industry back in the 90s and helped set the stage for the growth that we've had. We believe in this industry. There are incredible jobs, incredible benefits to the community that we've been hearing all night. But as critic, I also felt that I should study the issue. And so I said, well, government says they're studying, so I'm going to see what they're studying. We can put in freedom of information requests. I requested, well, you've done these reports and these studies, why don't you share them with me? The Liberals didn't feel that that was a good use of time or good use of your resources, so they made me go through freedom of information to try to get the studies. Now, when Wayne mentioned at the beginning of the Facebook posts getting deleted from the Premier's webpage, those Facebook posts were in large response to an article which came out in Business in Vancouver, which I'd done a freedom of information request to look at the jobs plan, to see if the jobs plan included your industry. And you know what I found out? That no. The Liberals said, no, we do not think we need to put any time into the film and television industry. There are not prospects for job growth there. Can you believe that? Well, and that's what I thought, because for me, there are incredible opportunities for job growth in the film industry. And so I can understand your anger. I can understand the tears that are here tonight, because you don't treat an industry like this and expect people to support you. You just don't. It was mentioned earlier tonight that Adrian Dix was in Hollywood. I got to attend, travel down with him at the invitation of the Motion Picture Production Industry Association. So we went down. We wanted to meet with the producers. We wanted to meet with the customers, some of BC's biggest customers. So we went down. We met with Warner Brothers. We met with Disney. We met with Fox. We met with it'll come back to me. We met with more people. There's lots of people down there to meet with, and they're all very beautiful. It's Hollywood after all. And I thought that was a good thing to do, because we need to hear from them. What do they want? What do they need to bring more of their business here, to increase jobs here? And they told us, you know, it won't take much, because you've got great crews, you've got great locations, you've got the right time zone, there's all those things, you could repeat them in your sleep. I do too now. But what they said as well, which I thought was important, and you can see it on the stage here tonight, is that there's cooperation between the business side and the labor side. It's something that we don't see enough of in this province, where unions and business are working together, supporting each other because they know that they need each other. And so, thank you for setting an example. But they said, you need to be a little little bit more competitive. And they talked about the tax credits and they talked about the incentive programs that do exist. And you know, I see it as an incentive. The minister currently, who's responsible for culture, he went live on radio, went into the papers and said the system is costing us money. It's costing the province money now. Well, I don't know how bringing $1.2 billion into the province is costing us. That's a heck of a lot of jobs, and that's a heck of a lot of money in British Columbia's pockets. You know, the other thing that both the Premier and the Minister said while we were in Hollywood, which I could not believe, neither could the producers, is they said that we went down to the land of make-believe, that we could learn everything we needed to possibly learn about the film industry by staying in Vancouver. Well, you don't treat your customers that way. These are our customers who have to decide who they want to come here or not. And what I've learned in watching the film industry across North America is sometimes even if a governor says, well, I don't really like the film industry, well, the film industry will say, well, we don't really like you either, we'll move somewhere else. No, we need to be welcoming of the industry in this province. So what we're doing now is we're in the process of meeting with many of the different the unions, the businesses, the companies in high tech, in the gaming industry, in the innovation sectors, the creative sectors, to come up with a plan, a long-term plan, that will grow jobs in the industry, that will defend the jobs that we have now, and that will be part of our platform as we approach the election. I wish I could tell you every little piece of it today, but I think it's important to be methodical. It's important not to just be a knee-jerk response to things, and it's taking a little bit of time, and I appreciate your patience. Certainly the industry has told us we need to send a strong signal to our customers that we want the industry. I'm sending that signal, and we'll keep sending that signal, because your jobs are important to us, and we want to support the film industry so it can thrive once again. Thank you.
Just on the incentive front, and for those of you who watch Facebook and the news and everything that's going on lately, New York State yesterday, I think, came out with, if they shoot in northern, or if you do work in northern or west New York State now, they are moving the credit from the 30% all spend to a 45%. New Mexico, that really wants part of the Georgia, Louisiana piece of the pie, is in the process by the governor's words today of increasing from 25 to 30%. As I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, 37 U.S. states, now 20 countries around the world. Malaysia just came on with a 25% all spend, and 8 or 9 provinces. That is what we are competing with, and we are the only credit, the only incentive program that is labor-based. Everything else is all spent. We need to be competitive. We need to ask our government to help us be competitive, and in turn, we will then put back into the system. Our last speaker of the evening will be the MLA from, Liberal MLA from Maple Ridge Mission, Mr. Marc.
I want to thank everyone for coming here this evening. You're doing what you need to be doing to be heard. And I know that there's a lot of concern. For many of you, you're concerned about your future, your livelihood, paying your mortgage. One lady mentioned about your medical payments. These things are very real. And I'm here because I want to hear from you. You're important. I want to represent you from Maple Ridge. I want to also represent Mission and connections with Tip Metals. And so it's really an education. And I know there's been a lot of discussion. I've had numerous meetings over the past month or so with Wayne. I had an invitation from Don and from others to go to North Shore Rally. I don't know how many of you were at the North Shore Rally. Okay. Yeah, I was there also. Because it's important. I didn't know anything that there was going to be a rally here, but I know that the film industry is really important for Maple Ridge. And I was out just prior to the meeting here, out talking with different ones, and I see one lady here, one lady I taught her, I took that elementary grade school a few years ago, and I think you're part of the community. And many people don't know just your involvement with the film industry, whether you are directly as a grip or as a lighting, or whether you have a business that is really dependent in many ways to the film industry. So this is really important. This is really important for Maple Ridge. It's really important for British Columbia. And I've got, SaveBCFilm, I believe that. I got your poster, Wayne. Yeah, I got your poster. It's on my wall too, because we do want to save BC Film. It's really important. We got a world-class film industry here. We want to keep it. We don't want to keep it, we want to grow it. We want to do everything that we can. I want to do everything that I can to support you, to support this community, to support this province. It's a green industry. It's an important industry, and it's an industry that we want to thrive in this province. There's hundreds of jobs in this province, in this community. Actually, my wife, she's on the smiling face at me. And she was a talent agent for a stint. And I've got good friends, too, that are in the film industry right here locally. So it's not something for me that is out there. It's right here. It's you. I know, as I mentioned, there's many local businesses. Teamsters. I was a Teamster for many years. Actually worked at SFU with Central Stores. There was Teamster 213. And I started in the early 80s, the mid-80s. And I remember when the movie industry started to hire Teamsters and to get the jobs. It was pretty exciting as a Teamster. It was really exciting to see that growth. And now to have a separate union, one of only two locals, Teamster locals in all North America. I think that's great. That's a testimony. And so it's nice to be the beginning of that. I've been meeting with, as I said, with individuals on this. When I'm going door to door, there's different ones here. I've met at your steps, and you're feeling passionate about, and you're expressing your concern about your livelihood, about the future. We're here for you. We want to stand with you. We want to take the steps that we need to help preserve your jobs and your future. And not just your future, but as was mentioned, by those that are in the schools. There's numerous schools. There are numerous, even Mielnicki recently announced $113 million expansion right there in visual media. And so that's all of this. And so we want opportunities to be there for our youth when they come out of college. It's important. This is an education group. It's quite complex, and it seems every meeting that I've had, there's more that I'm learning about the business. And one of the things I'm hearing from those that I've talked to is you want us, the government, to know how important it is to Maple Ridge, to British Columbia. You want us to understand the true numbers, the true value that's not captured. Sometimes it's just captured and you have this number, but you don't realize the impact, the overall impact on the economy. You want us to know just your contribution to the community, to schools, to charities, just your giving in those ways. When I asked what I could do, what I was told was, you don't have to match Ontario. Hollywood, they're sending their crews that they don't. We've got it in many ways over Ontario. We're in the same time zone. We have the great crews, actors, the studios, the great scenery, the locations. It's all right here. They want to be here. And I was told by different representatives from the industry that you don't have to match it. They're concerned over the sales tax. Talking about 7 or 8%. 7%. It's go to a manufacturer's sales tax. Now, April 1st, April Fool's Day, is seen as a tax competitive cliff the representatives. Now I know that doesn't mean everybody here does, and it was a referendum, but it was important because right now we are now having to tack on. We were already at a bit of a disadvantage prior, but this is tacking on another 7% cost reduction. It's very, very expensive. That's one of the reasons why I personally supported HST. Doesn't mean I like the way it came out, not at all. It was a total blunder, and I apologize for that. But it was important for the film industry, at least. Maybe some other industries it was a challenge, but for the film industry, it was important. We had a referendum. So we have to go back to the way it was. Okay, we can't just say, okay, well, the manufacturer sales tax is implemented right now, April 1st. We can't do that because, well, how would that look? Then the public would say, oh, look, you're just doing it for industry. You really didn't really mean what we said. We had a referendum. The majority of British Columbians voted against HST. We're going back the way it was, and we make these changes. That's a legislation. We're actually going to have to pass that legislation probably tomorrow or the next few days. We have to go back to the way it was. Now, as has been alluded to, BC Liberals actually have had a very good relationship with the film industry. Since we want to maintain that, eh? But here's the thing. Tax credits, or it's not really tax credits, because it's more of a tax rebate, were introduced by the MPPIA, as was mentioned, in 1998. And it was 11%. 11% on the labor. So that would have been $110,000 off $1 million of labor. Now, we have increased it 3 different times. In December 2004, we raised it from 11% to 18%. In December 2007, we raised it from 18% to 25%. 3 years ago, in February 2010, we went from 25% to 33%. So we've actually tripled the amount of tax credits for BC Film since we've been in power. That's because we believe in you. That's because we believe in you. Because we want to support you. Now that's just part of the story. Visual effects. That's over 50% rebate for the visual effects. And it's actually doing pretty well. We're very competitive still in visual effects, and I know that it's still not the big labor market as opposed to the big films, but it's doing well. Also, Maple Ridge, we see next from 210th Avenue on, I think we see 5 or 6% more. So that is a lot. That is a significant amount of rebate. And that's all to keep us competitive, because back in the 90s, there were about 3 or 4 markets we were competing in. Now we're dealing with dozens and dozens. It's very stiff competition. But we want to be competitive. Another issue that we have been facing is the high Canadian dollar. Because it used to be that labor was a lot cheaper. These companies would come in and they could get a real value. We had to fight that. So that's one reason. Another reason we're trying to we have put in higher tax incentives. So it's over a $1 billion industry. Very important, as everyone here has shared. In 2011, I believe it's $1.1 billion, there were $248 million in rebates. Last year, the estimate, Dr. Minister, was $330 million. So that's actually an increase of about $78 million increase. Now I understand that there's a lag. Okay, it doesn't just happen, there's a bit of a lag that happens, but there's actually been an increase that we've been putting towards it. Now, the film industry wants to be here, we want it to be here. The fact of the matter is this: Ontario is poaching our jobs. They are putting in tax credits when they're in billions and billions of Here's the thing. We were trying to tackle the debts, our deficits, so that we're not putting our children, that they're not paying extra debt payments, that's just lighting up cash in interest payments.
Respect! Hey, guys! Let him speak. Please, folks. This is irrespectful. He's agreed to come here. We heckle, we be bitchy. He walks out the door. Well, I know he won't, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate there's a lot of emotions in this. Because, like I said, it is your livelihood, it's your jobs, and so I accept that. And I accept the equity. Okay? I understand there's frustration. And talking with the minister, Bill Bennett, he said that everything's on the table. In our last conversation we had last week with Wayne and with Gina, he said that we need to ramp up discussions about the PST, what we can do to address that. I personally have committed myself to seeing a rebate, a manufacturer's rebate, or something similar to it, so that we can have that rebate, so our competitive edge can be restored. That's one thing I'm working for, and I'm committing myself to do that, to work on your behalf to get that competitive edge for that tax rebate. We need to work together to come up with a made in BC solution, because we can compete, we just need those tools. We as a government have responded in the past, and I mentioned the different things we have done. We will respond again, because BC Film is important. Your jobs are important. Thank you for your time.
Let's open the microphones up for a few questions. Probably more than has been. And then we'll close up. So, let's start with Gina over here to the right.
Hi, my name is Gina Lazarevich. Gina Hole from the makeup department 24 years ago. My husband is Tony Lazarevich, special effects, or better known as Tony Effects. I'm here for 3 reasons. I represent small business. 10 years ago, I stepped down from IATSE 891 to open my agency. I now represent artists and photographers, a little outside of film, but I also own a small business, a rental studio, and my business is down from rentals about 30%. My husband, Tony, a lot of you know, has left to work in Alberta. It was the only job that came his way. He's there trying to crew right now. We spent over a week and a half trying to crew. It's been almost impossible. The union there is, doing their job and trying to get them to hire, good workers, and it's almost impossible to find a crew there. I'm also speaking third part, like Wayne said, about my 20-year-old son who graduated from CAPU MOBA program, wanting to be a boom. He's out, ready to work, volunteering everywhere on film projects, mostly student-based, for free. There is 0 work for him to get. Absolutely nothing for me to say. I say, just go volunteer. Keep going, build your resume. And all of his friends are out there and they're just volunteering. Because there's 20-year vets out there taking the entry-level jobs to pay their mortgages. We're all there. Everybody's there. So I have a business that is way down. My husband's shop is, trying to keep alive with rentals. My son doesn't have work. So I'm here to fight the cause, to get the word out, to, and this is how I did it. I contacted my MLA. So SaveBCFilm, WeCreateBC says go contact your MLA. So I did that. My MLA, Jane Thornthwaite from North Vancouver, who really got on board with me, and that's how we got the invitation to go and speak with the minister last week. We got to meet with Marc. We got to ask the minister. My point is when you see all those posts on Facebook every day saying, contact your MLA, contact your MLA. You must contact your MLA. And this is what I'm saying is Marc is here, and he is a Liberal representative. He is in there. I sat with him, with the minister, and he is the voice. They're in the hallways talking every day to the minister and Christy Clark. So you need him to be your best friend, even if we don't agree with what they're doing. I've been a Liberal for 50 years. I say, I will vote NDP if they're supporting the film industry. It's just dead easy. Okay? And they have to know that. So we need Marc for you to go in, and as we spoke about, to get that PST in now. We need some ray of hope, and I need you in the hallways to be saying that to the minister. Ask him and ask him and ask him. Because he's the minister of everything. So he's got a lot on his plate. He's not just film. Spencer, it was wonderful sitting in your office talking to you. If the NDP gets in, I think you should be the minister of film. So you need to get up and stand up for us and keep at it. Because we need an answer now, and the NDP needs to come out and tell us what their platform is now. Because we all need to hear it. We can't keep on going the way we're going.
And I cannot overemphasize the get to your MLAs. And Marc is actually a product of what Gina did with Jane. Because Gary and Hal, you and a bunch of people from Maple Ridge Mission went to Marc's office. And the first meeting may not have gone as well as everybody would have hoped. But Marc came back and we met with Mayor Dayken, and he listened this time. And he took notes this time, and he asked questions this time, and he continued to do so in the meeting that Gina and I had with Victoria. So again, we may not agree with what everybody is saying, or we all agree to disagree, but we need those people because they are our voices. We are their constituents, we elect them, we vote them in or do not, but they are our voices in government. Don.
Hi, I'm Dayken. I've been with 155 16 years and
bring the microphone up, please.
And a Teamster for 34. My question is to Spencer. How will the NDP ensure that the government has a strong focus on the film industry?
Well, first off, I hope to be part of that government, so that should help. I love the industry. But anyway, to be serious, I think one thing that we need is some stability in government. We've had, every ministry has had about 4 or 5 different ministers in the last 4 years. It's been 4 years of very little happening. So I think, one, Adrian Dix has been very clear that we're going to do great things, but not a million things, which has been a bit of a problem of governments in the past where they try to solve everything. We want to focus on a couple of key initiatives. One is the creative sector. And I think that's got not just film and television, but we're looking at the gaming industry, which is also having some challenges, and a number of other of the creative industries, including the non-profit arts and culture that graces the stage here at the ACT. So I think I can only do so much. I think it's also one thing that I had a hard time with when I first started as critic, is I would send out e-blasts to any film contact I could find to try to help find other allies to build pressure on government. But we need the public of British Columbia, all of you, to continue your interest, to continue to talk to MLAs, whoever the government is, because, as you know, there's a lot of priorities out there, and if you don't hear from an industry for a long time, which can happen when people are working, and I think that's partly what happened for the film industry until we got to now, they can fall off the radar. I, for one, will fight so that doesn't happen, but I need to make sure that we keep this conversation and we keep the great relationships that we've built going so that we can maintain film and television and the creative sector at large as one of the key drivers of our economy. But more important, well, maybe not more importantly, that the economy is very important, but I also think that we talk a lot about the economy. We don't think about the film industry, about what it can do for our souls and what it can do for our spirits when we tell our own stories and it gets seen on television and we share who we are as a people. That's something we haven't talked about tonight, but I think that's also an important thing to remember. So, sorry if that's
Now, if you go to the taxation department, get the report directly from the government, you will see that last year and the previous year and the previous year to that, they didn't pay 33%. They didn't pay 24%. They paid 7.9% on all the, if there was $1 billion, they rebated 7.9% of money that was already spent in this province. It does not cost the taxpayer a penny. It's money that is new, it's clean, and it keeps coming in. So the 18, 24, 33% is political, let's drive around in circles. The other thing, we're talking about the 7%. Let's talk about it in the halls. If you are representing us in Parliament, why are you not on the floor saying we cannot afford to lose this business? We cannot afford to lose this 7%. If we lose this 7%, our industry is toast. Get up, be heard if you're supporting us. If you're not, give up and leave. Thank you.
The PST keeps the status quo.
Yes.
That doesn't gain us anything. That keeps the status quo the way we've been since the HST came in. That's really not bringing us more competitive because it's just the same.
We're already a manufacturing company.
Over here, please.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Higgins. There was two people who spoke today that resonated with me and formatted my question. One was the brother from the sheet metals worker that talked about the private sector unions. The productivity within the film industry, as someone who studies work systems and labor currently, is amazing. It is above the average, way above the average. So you guys need to go back to the table and do your homework. The second part of that is that the private sector unions absolutely have to stay more competitive, and they have done that. There are people in this room that have taken wage cuts year after year after year. Their collective agreements have eroded year after year after year. This is a precarious workforce, and you're probably going to need to go and look what that is, and it is important that you understand that. The second thing that spoke to me was Daryl, and Daryl spoke about the long-term vision of Ontario. They went through a similar situation in 2006, 2007. Yeah. And my fact checkers. It's good to have an accountant with you. Anyways, they have been working on that long-term strategy for years, and that is a 10-year strategy that they return to every 2 years. My question to this Liberal government is, where were you guys with your long-term strategy? Because the simple fact that we're here, and I'm kind of annoyed at talking on a microphone, which I don't really like to do, is speaking directly to the fact that this government sat on their hands and is not looking 10 years in advance, that we don't have the numbers, that we're bickering over the numbers, that we're educating people. None of this is okay. And it speaks directly to the fact that you guys claim to be a business-savvy organization and government, and you aren't.
My name is Quinn Shipman. I've been in this business for 28 years. I'm a Directors Guild of Canada member, BC District Council. I'm an IATSE member. I was a Teamster permit for 12 years working with Jason Crosby running boats. I decided early on in my career that I wasn't going to spend money going to a film school. The film school would be working and learning a bunch of different categories. That woman there made my point that I wanted to ask. Where, no, I'm speaking to your point. What I'm concerned is, this movement is fantastic, and I'm very proud to be part of this community and be part of this family that Wayne has so eloquently spoken about. My concern is that we don't have a one, and when I say we, I mean politicians, and I mean the union reps. We don't have a 1, a 3, a 5, a 10, a 15, and 20-year plan. If you look at the Japanese steel industry, or German industries, or any leading industries in the world, they have 20-year plans. They visit them every 6 months. Why, when we're bringing the kind of dollars we're bringing in, do we not have that in place? Now, I'm not pointing fingers. I want to be part of the solution. And I think everybody in this room wants to be part of the solution. We have a vibrant industry. It's a green industry. It's new money. We know what we're doing. If you go back in the history of our business, the CBC drama department were trained by BBC people. We've had film in this province since the early 70s. David Marcos can speak to that. That's not a dig at David. That's not a dig at David. I was David's trainee on Bordertown in 1989. I live in North Van and I've driven up to Maple Ridge more times than I care to admit. I've stayed in motels and hotels out here because I was too tired to drive home before production managers would pay for us to do it. And I think we need to get more proactive and more organized, and not just us, the politicians, the union members. We need to stop being apathetic, and I'm the first one to admit, until this movement came around, I was one of those apathetic people. We need to have a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 10-year plan so this doesn't happen again.
What has happened has happened. We have to look, that's the past. We have to really build and look to the future and look forward as to how we can sustain and continue to build this industry and keep it here. Gary?
I'm Gary Grip. I like to go fishing now and then. Attention, and I'm super happy with the turnout here because I can't believe the number of hours that go into getting this to happen. I've spent 20 years as a grip, or just shy of. I take pride in my job from before I'm on the clock till after I'm off the clock. If I get a series and they sign on me September 1st, basically I'm 24/7 because that's what I do. I think everybody else in this room is very similar to that. We're all dedicated. Again, I spent 20 years gripping. I've built my career around this. I love what I do. I'm in a different place all the time. I'm not in the same 4 walls. And I could go on forever, but I'd just like to invite everybody and anybody up here to put in their 2 cents worth, because brainstorming creates more energy.
Hi, my name is Ron McCash. I've been an actor and fight choreographer in the industry for 36 years, and increasingly working more in Eastern Europe because of tax incentives. And let's just call them what they are. It's a tax credit, yes. It's also an incentive to invest. And when we say, or the government says, we're losing X amount of money by the industry, well, whose money is that? It's tax dollars, it's your money. So why are they saying, because we pay taxes, that doesn't mean that as soon as we give that money over to the government says, oh, it's ours now. The government only administers that money. That money is yours. Now, a couple of weeks ago, there was an article in The Sun, great big thing, called, I think we've seen this movie before. It was by an economics professor, I think either UBC or SFU. Can't remember, his name was Reese Kesselman. And he is all for cutting all of the tax incentives and whatnot. And for some obscure reason, he cited a US study in how much the states have saved individually that cut their tax credits and their tax incentives. Well, I have time on my hands because, if Crewman, God bless him, gets a month on a movie, I'm lucky if I get a day. And when I don't work, I can't collect UI. So I did a month's worth of research, and a lot more before this article came out, on US tax credits and incentives. Well, guess what? Interesting academic study, but it has nothing to do with reality. I found that every single US state that cut their tax incentive for the film industry was gone. I don't mean down, I mean evaporated, zero, nothing. The industry, the states that just capped or reduced, lost significantly. Over 70 movies were shot in Michigan. They capped their film incentives. The industry disappeared, and I mean zero. Somebody mentioned, what was it? Arizona. Yeah, Arizona capped its incentives. It lost the Lone Ranger to New Mexico that didn't. The Lone Ranger's budget was $215 million. I know that for a fact. That's the kind of money we're losing. So basically, and we're not even talking about digital design companies here, but there's over 600 of those just in Vancouver alone. If you add those people in, which come under the rubric of all of this, you get almost 85,000 people in this industry and a couple of $1 billion, not just 1.1 like we did last year. For every dollar that the BC government invests in tax incentives that create investment, the province as a whole gets back $4 to $5. My question, finally, is what is it about that economic logic that the government doesn't understand?
So I got a general statement and a direct question. General statement is that we need to start talking, as we said, again and again, to our MLAs. The key behind it, though, is education. Because as we see, Mr. Dalton didn't know what was going on. There's going to be a lot of other MLAs that are going to do the same thing. So, get to your MLAs, educate them. One of the education aspects is, of course, the cycle of how these tax incentives or rebates come around. Sure, we're spending a lot of money right now because we had a really good year 3 years ago. And that's why we're seeing a lot of that money now. Now, in 3 years from now, there's going to be a tax rebate of 50 cents because there's nothing happening over these last 3 years. So we've got to be careful of how we're viewing how these cycles are working. And I think that the government really should be putting down some sort of contingency so that they can expect in 3 years that they're going to be spending the money that they're getting right now. So basically, that was great. Now I can't remember my direct question. Division. The thing about it as well is why we should be educating our MLAs is because whether the Liberals or the NDP get into office, wouldn't it be great if both the majority government and the opposition were on the same side for us? So it doesn't matter who gets into office. If they're all saying the same thing, then we're so much more ahead of the game. I'm going to do a shot in the dark here, Marc, but I was reading how the budget, when it first came out, and the reading of it, they're all worried because, first of all, they say that there's a lot of bully-boying tactics happening in the Liberals right now, that a certain cluster of them are basically pushing a lot of other Liberals into voting their way. And somebody, we don't know who, came about from the Liberal government and said, well, that's not the case. We are actually quite divided. And that's something that we should all remember that as well. Now, I'm wondering, during that reading of the budget, was there anybody from any of our MLAs kind of bringing us up, but kind of was shut down when we were we brought up, is what the question I have. And if we were, who brought us up? Maybe it's also one for Spencer as well. Were we brought up? And if we were, how quickly were we shut down? And what kind of division do you think that there is in the Liberal government right now in our issue?
You're talking about film industry specifically, correct? Oh,
Yes.
I brought it up for the caucus, with Freeman and everybody else, the reporters. And so I know it is certainly a concern. I mean, there are 700 people employed in the industry here locally, but the numbers are all over the place. So it certainly is a concern. It certainly is. We want to do what we can do, and I know we're going to address it. The minister has been very clear. It's all on the table, whether it be credits raising up, whether it's whether it's the taxes. It's on the table right there. So we brought by legislation had a balanced budget, but we need to go forward from here. And so I'll do everything I can personally.
You said something. How many others in the Liberal government? Because I'm wondering, are we getting a message out there to our MLAs?
Yeah,
Did other people bring it up?
Wayne and Gina, they came just there, but there's definitely a lot more support than that.
Well, that was 4, including the ministers of local 5, and Naomi Yamamoto. I think she's on the fence. In my experience, in my opinion, qualified, in my opinion.
Please.
I know folks have been saying, well, what happened in the past doesn't matter. Let's focus on the future. And I think to a certain extent that's true. But I gotta say, I get up in the legislature as an opposition critic. I make my voice heard on behalf of all of you. You come to the legislature, or at least MPPIA have met with Liberal MLAs year after year. The unions have met with MLAs, NDP and Liberals, year after year. So to claim this is somehow brand new, and oh, well, we just realized there's a problem now, is crazy. That all of a sudden everything is on the table now when a budget was just presented, which is supposedly the budget document that's going to take us for a full year, actually 3 years, is how the budgets are laid out. Again, I just say that we got an election coming up, people are going to say all sorts of things, but we look at the track records and we look at what the budget was, and there was nothing to film.
I just wanted to say I find it interesting, though, that budgets are for 3 years and these tax rebates are 3 years. So just something to think about.
For those of you who don't understand the system, a film company has up to 3 years to file their credit, file for their rebate. And in the case of some of the larger feature films, because they take up to a year in post-production, the average is between 20 to 36 months that they file for their credits. So once we have to have the money, essentially in my big magical piggy bank, prepared for that. So the estimates going forward for this that are going to be paid out for this year are $330 million. It doesn't mean that we had $330 million worth of incentives paid out for the work done in 2012. It's going back 3 years. We've been told by BC Film and Media, which is the organization up until recently, that as a, I guess it's a crown corporation, I guess, it was a government facility, that we are 3 years behind in reconciling the tax incentives with Ottawa. So how can they actually know how much is spent each year if we're 3 years behind doing the government's taxes?
My name is Michelle, and I work actually in a mom and pop second-hand store in Vancouver. And I have a girlfriend who's actually in the film industry. And first, I want to say, working in a second-hand store, a lot of film people come into my store buying product for set production, design, what have you. We have seen a decrease of thousands of dollars a year. And it's very scary for our business. On top of that, in regard to my girlfriend, she's been out of school, she went to BFS, and she's been out of school for 3-4 years now, trying to get into the unions and working on independent film to pay the bills. When she walked in today, she was speaking with the Liberal MLA, and she said, oh, I worked in makeup and production design. And he said, oh, and she said, on independence, mostly. And he said, oh, independents, they don't really matter, or they don't apply. And wow, like I was stunned a little bit, because so many students, like my girlfriend, come out of school and can't get into industry, into the unions. And so what do? They volunteer or they work on independent films. If those independent films, 9 times out of 10, at least in my experience, are sponsored and produced by people who are already here. And so, if those people aren't here, those independent films aren't happening. And those students aren't getting the support they need, and they're going to go elsewhere. So, independent films do matter in this industry.
The SaveBCFilm group of family of people are not divided by union. CPOC, which is the people that produce commercials and work on commercials, they're not union. big budget Hollywood. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got everything to do with people, their careers, their livelihoods, and earning an income to stay in this province. So if anybody discounts your girlfriend because she is in an independent world and a non-union world, they matter just as much as everybody else. And those independent films, they have the money to file for the incentives, because it has to be $1 million budget or more, would qualify, union or not.
Hi, I'm Tina Fiorda. I've been working in the film industry since 1991. First as a background performer, then as an actor, and now as a costume designer. I've seen my income fall from high 5 and 6 figures to low double digits. As a taxpayer, my taxes pay the government, so I consider Christy Clark my employee. In my business, if my employee doesn't perform, I have to give that employee a warning, and then I have to let that employee go. I always say to myself that people are not what they say, people are what they do. I've seen Adrian Dix and our MLA take a trip to to Los Angeles to talk to the producers, to talk to our clients. What I would like to know is what is our employee in government doing for us? Is Christy Clark planning on taking a trip to Los Angeles to talk to the producers? Is she planning on doing her homework as well, if anyone has a question, an answer for that?
I know that the industry is important for the government. There's no doubt about it. We've done, and that's not just words. We have shown it. We've put in a lot. We've raised up very significantly. But you know what? I'm not here just to say that's fine for the past. We're at the present right now. We need to move forward, and that's why I'm here for you to help move it forward.
I'm Chris Seltzer-Manispan. I'm one of the old farts of the industry. Invisible. I don't like being in front of this thing. When I came to BC from the States, I just retired from the Army. Came here on a 4-day weekend. Got into IATSE 659 at that time. And we had 2 features going when I got here, and 2 TV series. My wife was the executive assistant to the Honorable Grace McCarthy. We were at dinner one night with some other people. Mrs. McCarthy was very interested in our industry, had visited us on set, and she asked us to take off. And we said, we need a film promotion officer. We need a film office because all the regular players, the big players, had people to promote them. The following year, she started the BC Film Promotion Office. After her, we had a number of MLAs, a number of premieres, and we were able to sit down with them and discuss the film industry. Campbell was the last one I ever spoke to, and he wasn't interested. That's when the last increase came up. I have to admit, they did keep pace with other states, with other places raising their tax incentives. I am also one of the founders of IATSE 669 and 667. I'm a member of 3 camera locals now, and the Teamsters in LA. I've been a member of the Teamsters for 50 years. I've been on honorable withdrawal for 45. You guys don't listen to us. You don't seem to understand. I know you're all insurance salesmen that decide to become politicians, but it's really hurtful when we've worked so hard to build an industry. All these people have worked. They've been here. I've been in this business for too long. The last 3 years, I've shot 2 films in Romania, a film in Thailand, 3 films in the States, 2 in Winnipeg, and 4 in Toronto. I just got a call yesterday, I'm going to North Bay, Ontario, to do a Christmas film that was supposed to be shot here. It's running away. Saskatchewan did what they didn't do what you people are doing, they just shut down their promotion office. They have no film industry anymore. You're doing that to us. And I know this is Canada, you're all MLAs, you all have a voice. Your voice doesn't count for shit. It's what your premier, what your master tells you. And I don't know what her masters are telling her, but you've thrown away 25,000 people, or you're in the process of it. I credit you with having the chutzpah to come out here. I really give you credit for that. Angry when I see something that works.
And we got to kind of wrap it up here, but gentlemen over here.
One comment. I'd like to thank the panel that came out. It was nice to have you guys. You have an interest, and we're supportive of that. Wayne, good to see you. You're really driving this forward. It's been 15 years since we worked together, and that's another deal. Don Eamon, Bill Morrill, L.U., Gary Brook, all you guys for putting your hearts and efforts into this forum. Good on you.
Okay, fair enough. Just a while ago I was thinking to myself, I don't know about everybody else in here, but to me it feels like someone's playing Russian roulette with me, and someone else is also going to be pulling the trigger. I don't want anyone pulling the trigger on me, but at the same time, I'm trapped. I'll leave it there. And again, fantastic job. I'd like to see somebody else go back to their community and start what I've been doing, because I'm running out of energy. Thank you, panel, for coming out as well. My hat's off to everybody. And thank you, everybody here. And then if anyone else here needs help somewhere, let me know. I'll try and do something. If I can open the door for you so that the next person can go through, then we're going to continue to go forward.
Panel for coming out. I'd like to thank the all non-film workers that have come out and supported us here. There's a lot of industry-based people here. Thank you very much. I'd like to just leave one last thing. Winston Churchill would say, it is not enough to do what you think is best. Sometimes you must do what is required. And in this case, we need to get involved. We need to not that she needs to think about this properly. Thank you.
My name is Joe. I actually grew up in this town. I wouldn't be an honest citizen, to tell you the truth, if it wasn't for the film industry right here. Acting has actually been a passion of mine since I was a little kid. And I grew up in a single family. Single families, well, you grew up with your mom, and you have 3 other siblings. You grew up in the crime. You pretty much are stuck in the crime life. All I'm saying is that this film industry will change BC, I swear to God. There's a lot of other people out there like me, which are artists out there, that do have drug addictions, grew up in the crime life, and all that stuff, which BC, Vancouver is known for, which is drug abuse, crime, and everything. This is a passion that I've always wanted, and I've been trying to fight for the last 5 years. And if you guys rip that away from me, I have a criminal record. I can't go to the States.
Okay, we'll have one more question over here from Robin, and then we'll wrap up.
I'm Robin Julin. I'm in 86. And just sort of a quick analogy here, I think that it's kind of like a 45-gallon drum full of water and you get surface tension. And in our good years,
in saying that, there's also other spin-offs where, like our medical system, if we can't pay our medical or our hours run out, then we become more of a burden to our province, to our taxpayers, because it's going to be augmented through taxpayers, where we used to pay for ourselves. We can't do that anymore. And also too, when we're the 24 schools for film students, it's like our doctors years ago were all going to the States. They get their education here, and we pay for that, and then we lose them. And that's the same thing. If they're going to go to Ontario or other places where there's employment, then that's not a good system. And in saying that, it's also, I'm not university educated, and I'm not an economist, but to me this is really, really a no-brainer. I just don't understand how we can get like this when all this tax money is coming into our province in building roads or infrastructure, everything, and somehow the politicians can't see that. It just blows me away. I don't get it. And I can hope they include it soon, because it's anyways, thanks guys.
Just an unscheduled thank you, and I appreciate Wayne for allowing me to do this. And first of all, I just wanted to make sure I corrected myself. Gary Brook, thank you for introducing me, or for inviting me. But Spencer mentioned earlier that he was elected in 2008, and for those of you that know, I'm in an elected position. I was elected in 2009, which makes Spencer the granddaddy of politics compared to me. But one of the things that you mentioned, I just wanted to sort of expand upon. Since I've been elected, which is in about 4 years now, I have been working with 2 premiers, 3 finance ministers, and 4 ministers for the film and television portfolio. And on the opposition side, there's been 2 leaders of the opposition and 2 finance critics and Spencer. And I think, I really appreciate all the MLAs for coming here, all the candidates. But the one person who has been a constant for me and has been fighting for our industry and has been the voice of our industry in politics since I've been here, the constant person is Spencer Herbert. So I just wanted to give a special
That concludes our evening here. I do want to formally thank everybody who has volunteered to come sit on our panel this evening. Just their presence here and listening to ourselves and listening to everybody shows that they're listening and that they care about this industry and moving it forward. And we just have to keep getting our own voices out in wherever we live. That we need to continue the push and continue our efforts to sustain our business and get. I'm sorry, I'm exhausted.
You're doing a great job, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a number of ways that you can get your voice out that's not necessarily picking up the phone or going to talk to your MLA. So you don't have to be on Facebook, but if you're on Facebook, go on Facebook.com/SaveBCFilm, like the page. Talk about stuff, post things on that page. We also now have a website, SaveBCFilm.ca. Anything that's posted on the Twitter account or the Facebook account gets fed into that as well. Let's keep the traffic going there. SaveBCFilm.ca, not .com. So all those official supporters need to change the little thing that says .com. We have a Twitter account for those of you who are on Twitter. Hashtag SaveBCFilm. For those of you who don't know what a hashtag is, that's the pound sign, the number sign that's on your phones. Last but not least, and this is a big thing that was developed, it's a website that was developed by a former producer named Colleen Neistat, and it's called PlaySpeak. And it's playspeak.com/SaveBCFilm. I can't ask you enough to go onto that website, register yourself, and yes, it asks for some private information, but that private information is stored and it's not shared. There is the poll on there that was done by Mustel that showed an 85% provincial support for our industry. You can take the poll. There will be upcoming industry questionnaires about who you are, your male, your female, what's your how much money to, age range, dollar range of what you paid, that sort of stuff. What it does is it puts a dot on a map as one is over 30,000, but it's not verifiable data. I can't ask you enough to go to that website, register, and you don't have to be in the film industry to do it. If you support our industry, have your friends, your family, your neighbors, your dentist, your bakers, everybody, if they support you in this industry and continuing it, we want to get you registered on that site. Email it up to all your friends, post it on Facebook, tweet it, whatever the heck that's called. Just get it out there, and the more people that we get registered there shows our numbers. We say we're 13,000 in union membership, plus probably another 4,000 or 5,000 in the rest of the world, plus the extensions to all the various industries that we support and make their